This is the Ask Tom office hours for database in memory, the EMEA version. And we have with us today Markus Kissling, who's a product manager for database in memory. My name is Andy Rivenes. I'm also a product manager for database in memory. And we have a special guest today, Juergen Mueller, who's a director of software development, but works for the real-world performance team with Oracle and part of database development. So a special treat. He is going to talk about SAP BW and real-world performance with database in memory. And he and Markus, I think, have kind of some things to say about that. And I'm pretty excited that we got a very special guest. And hopefully it'll be a great session. Again, if you have any questions, please type them into the chat. I will have you on mute, and we will relay those questions and try to get all of your database and memory questions, in addition to not just SAP related, but any other database and memory questions as well. And we will try to tackle all of those. And I think we'll go ahead and get started. Markus, take it away.
Yes. Thanks a lot, Andy, for the introduction. Good morning or good afternoon together. Today we are going to talk about SAP BW and our in-memory, database in memory. This is a perfect fit for our customers, especially when they're running on Oracle and SAP. And Juergen Mueller is our colleague who deals with this topic since 4 years, Juergen, since the very beginning of database in memory. And now, please, Juergen, tell us something about this topic.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Markus, for the introduction. Let me get started. Hold on. All right, so we got an introduction. Today, this session, we will talk about the Oracle in-memory column store and the usage and how you can apply it for SAP BW. And there are various ways you can do it. And we will go through this presentation, give you a high-level overview. If you have any questions after this presentation, please feel free to reach out through our info desk to ask more questions or get directly in contact with us. In general, SAP applications are certified for in-memory column store across the board.
Juergen, can I interrupt you just for a second? What's this info desk you're talking about? Do people know how to contact you guys that way?
I'll have at the end
okay, great.
My contact slide, yes. So in-memory column store is accessible for all SAP applications across the board. So this includes all the classical OLTP related applications like ECC, CRM, SCM, and BW as the key primary target. Here is a summary of relevant SAP nodes. This is a reference for all the related parts. In-memory is integrated into the DBA cockpit for SAP applications. So it can be monitored out of the SAP front end directly. Then since a few years now, it's directly integrated with flat cubes in BW. And we will talk about this a little bit later. If you have existing Infocubes today, you can convert those Infocubes in flat cube format. And then the last note here is listed the in-memory toolkit, which allows you to alter certain tables within the Oracle database to take advantage of the in-memory column store. Now let's have a look a little bit closer on certain objects. In SAP, you have basically 3 different major objects how you can store the database, your data. The first one comes to mind is the so-called DSO, or the data storage object. It's a very flat schema, so you have in the center a large fact table with many columns, which reaches out to a number of master tables. This format is very similar to the flat cube format, which introduced SAP a few years ago. The flat cube format is also the same what they use in the HANA database. And the reason for that is very simple. A large flat schema is ideal for in-memory column store. So any DSO you have today available can take advantage of this, and you can use and apply in memory to it and take advantage of that schema. Here is an example when we applied in memory to a data store object. So you see in the execution plan that in the center, on the bottom, the table starting AML DS routine is accessed in full in memory in the column store. It's pruned. It's basically filtered on these columns and then joined back into, in this case, 3 different master tables. This makes the joins very efficient if you can prune on the fact table, and then you get only the result set back what you really need.
Juergen?
Yes.
Question. Besides, can you go please a slide back? Besides table access in memory full, we have this table access storage full. Does this mean we can mix this access types?
Yeah. So in this case, as you see, the storage access full means these particular tables are not loaded in memory. We only loaded, in this case, the lower table here, which is called AML_DS13. So that's a good point. Within the in-memory application for SAP objects, you have the freedom to pick and choose the particular tables you want to put in memory. Think about it. It's kind of just an attribute to a database object. So if you have the knowledge how the query looks like, you can make the right choice to put only those tables in memory which are worthwhile to do so. So that's a good guess.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Good information. Yeah.
Now, in this case, how do you apply the in-memory to Infocubes? Infocubes is a format. It's a so-called an extended star schema. As you can see, you have in the center a fact table. Actually, with an Infocube, you have 2 fact tables, which SAP does a join to it independently. One is the F table and the other one is the E table. And they join to a dimension table, and the dimension table aggregates basically certain combinations of some master tables. This is a more denormalized, or it's a completely denormalized format. Very good if you don't have in memory, because here you can take advantage with bitmap indexes and get to the data. However, with the introduction of in-memory column stores, this is not the most favorable schema. But nevertheless, you can apply it in 2 forms now. Either you convert such an Infocube into a flat cube, or you use the in-memory toolkit, where you can put either individual tables, or you materialize the entire Infocube and put it in memory. In this case, you see we did apply to certain parts of the InfoCube, the in-memory attribute. So in this case, this one is the center, is the fact table, and then we decided to put some dimension tables as well into the memory. And here you see an example that some of the master table are not in memory. And if you have a small table, let's say 1,000 rows or 100,000 rows less, then it's typically not worthwhile to put them in memory because, yeah, it's very fast. Either they're in the buffer cache or it's a very fast read.
Mm.
Now, with regardings to the flat cubes is a standard form which SAP introduced. You have a chance to either start with a fresh flat cube, or you convert an existing InfoCube into a flat cube. Flat cube has another advantage over InfoCubes. In flat cubes, SAP changed the load process of new data, and it basically optimized the way they did it. The InfoCube load process is very slow, and that's another advantage versus the InfoCubes. You have the choice, or the flat cube is always in memory. There is no way you can put a flat cube just on disk. With Oracle, it's on disk, but it's only available in memory. And this is a requirement by SAP. With the toolkit,
Juergen, a question. Sorry. A question. What are some major differences between Oracle database in memory and HANA? Are there differences? Or?
Yeah, there is fundamentally a few differences, yes. SAP HANA is an entire in-memory database, so you need to put all the objects in memory, and in the end stage, all the data is stored in column format. With Oracle, we have a so-called dual format way. For us, an in-memory column store is kind of an extension. It's an add-on you can apply as you need it. So you have really the choice and intelligent way to decide where you're going to put the data. That allows you to have very large databases and only the objects you really care about for certain queries in memory. Yeah, I think these are the key fundamentals.
Okay.
And one more comment is through that you have with Oracle database always the perfect OLTP access. So if you have OLTP transactions going on in your database, you have basically the best of both worlds in one database.
Mm. Okay.
Now with an in-memory toolkit, this is a PL SQL library which allows you to generate required SQL scripts to identify the objects by name of your SAP object. So if you know a particular object name of your data store or InfoCube or FlatCube, you can create a SQL scripts to either load them directly on a table level, or you can generate a materialized view for any of those objects and then load the materialized view into memory. Here is a short summary, an overview. On the top you see the three different objects, DSO, InfoCube, and FlatCube, and the differences on those. Based on our experience and tests with customers, the materialization and putting them in memory is by far the best option on a performance level. And we have all the details for you to explain it to you, but this is a little too much for this session here. But the nice thing is about materialization, You can do a lot of additional performance tuning within the materialized view, in particular for your problem you're trying to solve. Oracle, the materialized view technology is around for a long time. It's usable in the in-memory column store, and allows you to do, we call it optimization of data within the materialized view for the in-memory column store. Yeah, we can again materialize any SAP object you have in your BW environment. We create those scripts for you, and then how does this apply to your daily business? If you load data in any of those objects, the normal procedure, you see it on the bottom, is the process chain is normally dropping the indexes on those objects, and then you load the data, recreate the indexes, and then in this case, if you create a materialized view on it, we recommend to add this additional step to create an EMEA on that particular object. So why is a materialized view a very good form and presentation of the data in the in-memory column store? It's basically completely denormalized, and we put everything in a large fat table with all the columns we put, which is nothing else than a materialized view, and with that we give the database the most efficient access to the data, because we can filter on all these columns. We can prune the data within the in-memory column store and return only the data what is the query supposed to answer. That saves you CPU cycles and results in very fast access.
Juergen, you've effectively pre-joined that data then, put it in the materialized view, and then we just have to scan that data all in its entirety, or it's all the data we're after is then in the materialized view. That's kind of the gist of that?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And then that means it's just in memory, just scan speed is what's dictating the performance then.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's about as fast as you can get. So.
Yes. Yes. And that way you can scan a billion of rows in a very short amount of time and very efficiently. So you don't need a lot of CPU either. So, and yeah.
Great.
Juergen, regarding this Infocubes question, yeah, what will happen to Infocubes going forward?
Oh,
are they existing in the future, or are they deprecated, or what happens if you have this flat cube stuff?
Okay. So if you're an SAP customer today and you have Infocubes, and many customers have many Infocubes in place right now, SAP allows you to continue to use Infocubes. There is no restriction on that. They offer you basically a third new form, which is the flat cube. But you're not forced to decommission any of those Infocubes, to my knowledge.
Okay, thanks.
And we have seen customers, they have literally thousands of Infocubes. They're gonna continue to use Infocubes, yes, for these purposes.
Okay.
Now, here are some example results what customers achieved. This here is a data store object, and what you see is the difference is regular disk access, which we call no in memory, and then you see if we loaded the fact table in memory. You see the improvement on the right column. So there is a dependency really how in memory gives you a benefit over the traditional disk access. It really depends what is being executed and what the data is filtered for. So if you have very selective queries which are really going only of a very small amount of data, the improvement, if you go to a flat cube or to a data store object in memory, will be smaller. If you filter a lot of data and you do quite an aggregation within the query, you see higher benefits, and this is basically reflected in these numbers what you see there. But these are real life customer results, so this is just by putting some of the fact tables in memory. Mm-hmm. Here is an example of non-in-memory, in-memory. That means just putting the fact tables and dimensions in memory, then converting such an InfoCube into a flat cube, and then we put it basically in an MV format. And this MV, what they used, there are further optimizations possible. So it really depends what optimizations levels you apply. But this is a customer case where a customer did this by themselves and got to those results. Here is another customer example. They compared actually another interesting component. So they had a BWA in place, and their objective was to replace the BWA. And here you see for particular queries the timings for the different scenarios. The first one, the red bar, is regular bitmap access. That means nothing is in memory. The next one, the grayish, is BW access, which is pretty fast. But BWA is in principle a pre-aggregated in-memory column store on an appliance. So no surprise that these are good numbers, because those numbers need to be calculated and updated as well. Then the orange bar is a flat cube, which was in a fairly early stage. It might be better these days. So the numbers on the flat cube, I would assume, are better than what you see in this slide. And then the last one is an in-memory MV, which came out faster than the other things. With that, you basically are in the position to replace BWA within the Oracle database. You don't need an extra appliance. Here is a case study of a German company. They applied in-memory Toolkit on their SAP environment. And here is a slide they presented at the SAP user conference, I think in 2018. And they ran certain queries and showed basically the difference between BWA and materialization with the toolkit and the different improvements what they saw. Mm-hmm. So this is
Juergen?
the BWA versus the toolkit.
Yeah. Juergen, a question. Is there a minimum BW version required to use a database in memory?
No, any SAP BW environment 7X, which is going really far back and is certified for Oracle 12c or higher, is applicable. So pretty much anybody who is out there can use it.
Okay, was a question. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So this is, I think, the last result slide. Here is a link to the in-memory toolkit, which is available through OTN, and you can download it from there. There is also a SAP Note where you can download an in-memory toolkit directly from the SAP environment. This toolkit is a more basic version and does not include the materialization, but it includes the identification by object name, and you can add the attribute to the fact table or dimension tables to be loaded into memory.
And this is on SAP. This the download. You can download it from
SAP Note. Yes, is an SAP node, and it's accessible through the SAP network support. Yes.
Oh, it's cool.
And then here we go to the summary. With the in-memory toolkit, yes, you can replace BW. It's not a problem. So we can get rid of this obsolete appliance. You have really the flexibility to pick and choose the SAP objects of interest, which give your customer or your company the biggest benefit to take advantage of this technology. You don't have to overinvest and put the entire database in memory. You really can pick and choose. And then with flat cubes, they are by default in memory. There is no choice. SAP gives you here. It's integrated into the SAP process, and you have the advantage that the ETL process for the flat cubes is faster than what you see with the traditional InfoCube.
Juergen, a question regarding this flat cube stuff.
Okay.
What is the difference between HANA flat cubes and Oracle flat cubes?
That is pretty much exactly the same schema. There is no difference there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the same technology. Yeah, same schema, same usage. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I think that concludes my presentation here. If there are any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. If not, I show you quickly my contact information.
Another question arises about this materialized views. Are they supported by SAP in production environments?
Yes. So this is a good question. Yes, materialized views are supported across all SAP applications. So a customer can use them and apply them. And there are many customers out there that are using this technology, even in non-in-memory environments. So yes, it's fully supported. And I forgot the support number now, the SAP number, but the general features, SAP Note spells out all the features we provide with the Oracle database. And the general rule is, unless there are in this node specifically prohibited, they can be used. And materialized use is allowed, and you can use it basically in all applications. Yes.
Cool.
Let me interrupt for a second. And if anybody has a question, please go ahead and type it into the chat window. I had a couple of questions for you, Juergen. Is SAP supporting beyond 12.102 of Oracle database at this point?
Yes. So yeah, SAP and Oracle continue to drive new certifications for the Oracle database. We're right now in process for all the future releases. So we are right now 18, 19 is coming. We also have these Oracle databases available in the Oracle Cloud. So there are various forms and shapes you can access on and use SAP environments in the Oracle Cloud as well, on Exadata or on the OCI platform of Oracle.
Okay, well, that's good news. So the other thing I had, which I thought was kind of interesting, was in a couple of your execution plans that you had in the joins, you had where there weren't Bloom filters, so perhaps the filter predicates didn't generate a Bloom filter. So in the absence of that, has anybody done any work, or have you guys looked at join groups at all? Is it possible that if you can get onto 12.2 or above of Oracle database, that maybe join groups have even further helped this, especially if you're not creating all materialized views, if you're just using some of the objects populated in the column store. Does that make sense, do you think?
We did some tests with join groups, the way the SAP queries are generated, and typically, well, there are multiple ways how you can run a query against an Oracle database through SAP. But the most generic version is through the so-called Business Explorer. And the Business Explorer, the way they write the queries, we found some advantages of the join groups, but we use this information kind of in materialized view if you use the toolkit. So we optimize the access to the materialized view through these technologies, but other than that, no.
Okay.
And I'm not aware of it that we use it for the FlatCube implementation, but I'm not too deep into the FlatCube implementation, how that is exactly done.
Yeah, so clearly if you're not having to do joins, you're using materialized views, that join group isn't going to do you any good. But so it might be possible for customers to experiment, but it sounds like you're probably better off with the toolkit and relying on the work you guys have already invested into this. So one last question I had, and again, anybody who wants to help or to chime in with further questions, but can customers contact you directly? How do they, if they start using the toolkits, if they want to use database in memory, just send you an email? Is there a certain process folks have to go through to engage your team?
Yeah, so my team, we are part of database development, and we also call the real world performance team. So if any customer or account team has questions or inquiries about this topic, they're more than happy to contact me, and we will respond to them and take care of their questions and needs, what they want to do. So it's
right.
pretty informal, and yeah, we're ready for your questions or projects.
Oh, that's great. That's a great resource for folks to be able to take advantage of that.
Juergen, another question from the chat regarding SAP FEMS. Going forward with our implementation, is there support in the future for this FEMS stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. FEMS is a technology SAP invented to write more efficient queries to accessing the data. And what it is, basically, you had all these different objects like the multiple Infocubes, and typically people do Infocubes for a particular year or location or whatever. So without FEMS, the Business Explorer tool writes multiple queries to go after the data, and then the aggregation happens and the application's over. Long story short, with FEMS, which is not really technology, it's just another way to write the query more intelligently. You write basically direct query into the database, query at on the database level all these objects and aggregate them in the database instead of pushing the data into the application server. So this technology is being implemented on Oracle as well. It will be available pretty soon to all customers, and that is true across all the objects, number one, and number two, this gives you great benefit in terms of using technologies like in-memory even more efficient than before. So yeah, that raises the bar for Oracle, and we're on lockstep then with all the other database vendors finally.
Thanks. Yeah, it was interesting, yeah, that to see that we support all the stuff, yeah, and maybe we're even better, yeah, that we are able to query not only in memory, that we can query across all the storage layers we have, also against extra data storage or buffer cache. Looks very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we adjourn?
So I don't see any other chat questions. So Juergen, you're done. Markus, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yes, we are looking for, let's say, especially in the EMEA region. Yeah, we have let's say a lot of customers running SAP BW, running SAP on CRM. Yeah, we have very good success stories. For example, with Bosch in Stuttgart on their CRM, they're running, let's say, on the CRM system, database and memory, very successfully. Yeah, save a lot of storage, yeah, because they can drop their indices, not the SAP side index in the indexes, but a custom index. And on the BMW side, we have also a lot of let's say interest, yeah, customers who are interested in coming to us and asking me for, especially, yeah, the last projects were SAP related. So I would like to ask everybody who maybe watch this Ask Tom session on YouTube. Please reach out to us, reach out to Juergen and his team, and tell us about your use case. Tell us about what you think about. Yeah, we help you. We are glad to help. And this is our offer, because I think our solution is very proven. Yeah, it's well integrated in the Oracle stack. Yeah, you don't need other databases or other side pack solutions. Yeah, it's only an offer, yeah, but I think it's a good offer we have, in my opinion. In our opinion, also, I think.
Well, great. Okay, I don't see any chat questions, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you very much, Juergen, for enlightening us on how SAP BW and database and memory can work together. Again, we have the toolkit and resources on OTN. And Markus, thank you for joining, and I guess we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks to you guys on the internet. Thanks, Andy. And see you next time.
Great. Talk to you all later.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.